Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. I am Tim Kernan alongside Mike Freshwater. Mike, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, Tim, how's it going today?
I am doing fantastic.
Very good.
You and I had another big game last night for the Alter Knights. Called it up at Alter High School. The Knights were victorious, but kind of an odd ball game. I thought Coach Kogan from Carroll had a pretty good plan coming in. I thought he wanted to slow the game down, and they were successful doing that.
Muck it up.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow-paced game, if you will. Very good defense, I thought, by both teams.
Yeah, I thought so as well, but it's probably in terms of what he was thinking there, really only their chance of winning was to shorten the game, muck it up, make it slow, but it didn't work. We still ended up winning by 15 or 16. Didn't feel like a 15 or 16-point win when it was all said and done just because of how low scoring it was, but at the end of the day, it was a 15 or 16-point win, 14-point win, I think, actually, and that's all that matters. And this time of the year, this late into the season, it's just about getting the W, and the Knights were able to do that on their home court last night and lock down the number one seed in the north part of our district brackets for the tournament and clinch at no worse than a co-championship in the GCL.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. I thought last night's victory did just that and put them in a great spot to take the GCL crown this year. They play Baden a week from last night, so they will play Baden next Friday night and look to lock that up.
Yeah, lock it up on Friday, and then that way, not that this is that big of a deal, but you don't really want the game against CJ, Chaminade Julienne at CJ on Saturday to be that meaningful from that perspective. So, but Baden's going to come in really, really motivated. They've won 9 games this season, 7 or 8 more than they won last year. Got a new coach, and they would love nothing more than to muddy the waters for us and come into Alder and knock us off next Friday. So
they
got to be ready for that.
Well, and it'll be, that's tough to have back-to-back nights. They will play Baden on Friday, and then you mentioned they'll head down to Dayton and take on CJ at CJ, which is always a tough place to play.
Extremely tough. Big crowd, loud, hot gym, and hopefully it's just for bragging rights and doesn't really mean anything in terms of the winning the championship in the league.
So I asked you this last night, but was wondering maybe if you could share a little bit more with the folks. But the drawing for the tournament brackets is tomorrow.
Yep.
Do you have any feel for how that's going to go? Or maybe I know you won't want to tip your hand too much right now, but anything you can share with us?
Yeah, so we're the 1 seed. We get to pick where we want to go first on the brackets, and then everybody else can decide and go from there. There's no real secret. I mean, we're going to look at the path and where it leads, and with some knowledge, hopefully, around what we think teams in Cincinnati and even Columbus are going to do. We'll go from there. But whatever, using the blank sheet, whatever we think the easiest path to get to the regional is, that's the path we're going to take. And I'm not going to, tip our hat too much, but I will tell you this: get ready to drive to Springfield.
Well, I told you this maybe a day or two ago, but I actually enjoy calling games from Springfield.
Yeah,
it is kind of a drive up there.
Put us right there on the court.
Yeah, I love calling games from there.
Where are the girls playing? Are they there also?
Well, I was going to go over that in a little bit,
Okay.
but the girls are going to start in Covington, but I'll hold that for just a few moments.
Yep.
But I did want to mention one more thing before we move on.
Yeah.
And so there is a little bit of strategy to it. It's not like they just pick these teams out of a hat.
Absolutely. And when you're a top seed and you get to pick kind of first, it's interesting to watch as the rest of the teams go up where they want to go, who they want to play or who they don't want to play, right? Who they're going to try to avoid. There's 3 sets of brackets for us tomorrow. I think Alder, Trotwood, and Oakwood are probably going to end up Tip City are going to end up in different brackets, and then Oakwood, Tip City, Alter, and then right behind them is going to come Dunbar, Trotwood, CJ, and Dunbar, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of where that second tier of teams in terms of the seeding, where they end up going, who they feel the most confident about playing, and that's always a fun part of it. But for us, we're going to get on at 2:00 after he talks about the rules and the protocol and all that stuff. We're going to go up, and then we're going to put it on mute and sit back and listen. We don't have much more to do after that, so it's going to be fun and interesting to listen to what happens, and then then we start looking at who we're going to be playing the first couple of rounds, and maybe getting some video on them and starting early scout.
Well, and it is exciting. I mean, it's kind of fun to get down.
Time of the year.
It really is fun, and it'll be exciting to hear where the boys land. But
Yep.
you mentioned some of those teams, but certainly, at least in terms of name, Mike, there's some teams out there that they always seem to do well in the tournament, and they're always looming. So you certainly got to be ready to play.
Yeah, Tip City's starting to get my attention, our attention. They're having a great season. Only 2 losses. They beat Sydney last night. They're going to win their league easily. So they're starting to get some attention. But the seeding process is, it's still a little funky in terms of what it's going to look like at the end, because they're using just wins and losses to decide that. But I think I looked at both the Dayton bracket and the Cincinnati bracket today, and for the most part, it shook out. I don't think there'd be a lot of difference if the coaches were voting. But it's still a weird way of doing it, and it'll be interesting to see what if any changes the OHSAA makes to that after this season.
Well, we also mentioned the Altar girls basketball team,
Yep.
which I also call. I don't do that one with you. I do it with Coach Teresa Check, but the girls have had an absolutely fantastic season. It's been a nice run for the girls. They won the state championship in 2022. They did very well last year, made it all the way to the regional semifinal, and lost to kind of their arch rival in the GCL, Hamilton Baden.
What do you think about the Baden Rams?
They are the arch rival of the alternate.
For you.
Without a doubt. But they've had a great season. They're 19-2. They won the GCL, finished 10-0, unscathed in conference.
Yeah, that's good.
And they've already done their draw,
Right.
Mike. They're actually going to start a week from today their tournament.
Right.
They kind of stagger, so the boys finish about a week later than the girls do.
Correct.
But it's one of those things where coaches certainly would cringe when they hear me say this, but I think they've got a pretty good path to the regionals. I think they're going to be very successful, at least when you look at the records of the teams that they'll be playing
Well,
early.
sliding down a division, didn't make it any harder. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way, right? And so it does look like they've got a couple games early on that they'll cruise to. But in any division, the further you go, the harder it gets, and sooner or later they're going to run into somebody that, that's going to be very competitive.
So they're going to start their tournament run up at Covington High School. That's where they will play. They will take on Springfield Shawnee.
Home of the Buccaneers.
And they will take on, the winner of that ball game takes on Northeastern, also at Covington High School. Northeastern took the bye, but certainly Altar will be favored in those 2 ball games.
It's kind of a weird place to. Well, they're D3 now, so maybe
Yeah.
that makes the difference. I've never heard of games at Covington, but like I said, it's a new year with a new division. But they must have a nice gym up there.
They must, and it must be big enough to.
Absolutely.
But so you mentioned that they came down to Division III this year. I think it was one girl that
Isn't that crazy?
made them go down to Division III. But I think from what I've heard, they will probably pop back up to Division II next season. I'm not sure about that, but
Probably not, because there's going to be 7 divisions next year.
well, that's true. Things are going to change.
They're going to be 3 at best, or highest. Probably more like 4 or 5 when it's all said and done. But
That's crazy.
I know it's a whole nother topic for the podcast.
So yeah, that's true. So again, next Saturday they'll start. If they win that ball game, then they will go to let's see, the following Wednesday, the 21st, I believe, is a Wednesday. Then that will be their second game. So
Awesome.
then we'll discuss it from there. But a great season. They're going to be celebrating the seniors today, Mike, up at Alter.
Oh, have fun
their,
with that. That's fun.
yeah, final regular season game. They'll be celebrating Ushana Garst, Adia Strasser, Elena Thompson, Hannah Mays, and Riley Smith. Certainly a great class. All those girls were part of the state championship in 2022. Especially Riley Smith and Hannah Mays, they played a pretty big role. Riley started, but Hannah came off the bench. Quote unquote, would probably be considered the sixth man of that team. And Elena Thompson, those two both were probably considered the sixth girl or whatever off the bench, played major roles, as did Adia, and Nushana did as well. So a great class that's going to be graduating from Alter.
Yeah, I know you've been through that. I went through it 3 times. You've been through it a couple times.
Yeah.
The senior year goes fast, but in reality, the whole 4 years seems like it goes really fast once you get to the very end like that. And senior nights both exciting but sad at the same time. But unfortunately, it's not the last game of the season. They're going to play again. But,
Yeah.
it does kind of hit home a little bit when you realize your kid's graduating and ultimately going to be moving out of the house here pretty quickly. And I had 3, so the first 2 were relatively easy to deal with. When I realized the third one was going to be gone and we went through all of that, it was a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah, I'm never a fan of. I mean, they're great. It's so fun to celebrate them, their careers and stuff. But as a parent, I never really enjoyed the senior days. So, so we'll deal with that, and we'll certainly be excited for those girls. But you mentioned very glad that they get to continue on and play more games. That's for sure. Mike, we do have a special guest today, but before we bring him on, just wanted to touch on a few more things. But the coaching changes, they've all been filled now. We talked about this the last couple of weeks, but Dan Quinn, the former Cowboys defensive coordinator, took over the position for the Washington Commanders. And that one didn't surprise me. I kind of felt like he was going to be the one to take over that job.
Yeah, then bringing on, and I get these guys confused all the time, Lincoln Riley or Cliff Kingsbury, right?
Yeah.
Bringing him on immediately. And I think, has he hired a defensive coordinator yet? I don't remember, but what's almost as interesting as the hire of the head coaches is who they bring on as their top assistants. I saw where Mike Zimmer just got hired or is going to get hired as a Dallas Cowboy defensive coordinator. And sometimes it feels like there's a little bit of a change of the guard, and sometimes it feels like it's the good old boy system, and that's basically a good old boy hire, I think. But obviously he brings a whole lot of experience.
He was a great coordinator with the Bengals.
Yeah, he was.
Sure.
And a really good and pretty successful head coach, ultimately.
And then, of course, the other positions that were filled, Jared Mayo took over for the Patriots. Raheem Morris will take over for the Falcons. Antonio Pierce at the Raiders. Jim Harbaugh, want to make a few comments about that, takes over at the Chargers. Brian Callahan from the Bengals takes over for the Titans. Dave Canales.
Another interesting move change there was Brian Callahan hiring his dad from the Browns, their offensive line coach, father-son combination.
Yeah.
In this case,
how about that?
The father's going to be working for the son.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird dynamic.
That is. Am I saying that right, Mike? Dave Canales?
Yes.
Takes over for the Panthers.
Yep.
Wasn't sure if I was pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
Mike McDonald for the Seahawks. So it looks like all the coaching changes are complete now in the NFL, but wanted to go back to Jim Harbaugh. It looks like he is kind of ransacking the Michigan coaching staff.
Shocking.
Not unexpected,
Shocking.
certainly.
Yeah, right.
But I wanted to mention it because it's funny. I saw some comments from Michigan fans.
They're not happy.
Boy, they've turned the tide on him, haven't they?
They are not happy with Jim Harbaugh, and how can they be surprised, for gosh sakes? The dude's about himself. He always kind of has been, and in a way, I don't blame him. But he has pilfered him, and it's going to be interesting to see if he drafts any other players that are eligible for the draft. But he's going to do what's best for him in his situation. If that means taking some coaches from Michigan, he's going to do it. And that's funny how they've reacted. Like you said, they're not real happy with him right now.
No, he took Ben Herbert. He's the strength and conditioning coach. Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator.
Right.
Mike Elston, who I kind of am familiar with because he coached at Notre Dame. He's took him. He was the defensive line coach at Michigan. And Dylan Roney, I think I'm saying that right, was a grad assistant. He assisted Mike Elston. So took those four individuals that I saw. There may be more, but yeah, I don't think that the fan base is real happy with him right now.
It's a rebuilding year from a player and a coach's perspective for Michigan, and I don't have really high expectations of them next year, but I'm sure their fans will. And it's going to be interesting to see. They have a tough schedule when you bring in those Pac-12 teams that they have. Their schedule is going to be. They had a lot of cupcakes this season. I mean, their schedule was ridiculously easy, non-conference, and it's not going to be that way because we're adding more conference games and we're adding the Pac-12 teams. And so I think it's going to be a tough season for Michigan next year, and I'm going to enjoy it.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, I gave them a lot of hell, if you will. I thought this year's schedule was basically a high school schedule.
They got rewarded for it, though, at the end of the day.
Boy, they sure did. And, you know, there's a lot of people who argue about the strength of schedule, but I tell you what, they sure got away with it.
They got away with it, and more teams might look at doing that. That aren't already doing it, but they didn't hurt them, and they got to the national championship game and won it, and everybody was happy. And now, once the dust has settled on that just a little bit, it's time to look forward and start rebuilding.
Well, Mike, you and I, of course, were talking about Alter High School, and I understand that we have a very special guest on the show today, and Jacob Connor. Jacob, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Jacob, first question. When you're let's say when you're at Ohio State, you're a Buckeye, right? When you're at Marshall, what are you? Because it's the Thundering Herd. So are you,
You're a bull.
how do they refer to you that way?
I mean, it's kind of difficult, I guess. It's a plural mascot. So, I mean, we're all a part of the herd.
Okay.
So to speak.
Herdsman.
So,
A herdsman? I don't know.
We'll go with the Bulls, something like that, a bull.
I think Thundering Herd in this case is probably a herd of stallions, isn't it, Jacob?
I think we're the Buffaloes.
Buffaloes.
okay,
We're both
there you
wrong. For gosh sakes, how did I not know that?
That'll work.
No, but that's awesome, and I love. We were down there this summer, and I love the campus. I love the school colors. I love everything about it, and can't wait to see Jacob play here real soon.
Well, Jacob, you're a sophomore now at Marshall, and just talk a little bit about your experience. You know, you're in your second year. How's it going for you up there?
It's going pretty well. I'm enjoying the school, enjoying the basketball part of the school, all my teammates, all my staff. So it's been a really good fit for me as far as anything goes between basketball to school. So I've had a really good time up there. Obviously, West Virginia is a little bit different than Ohio, but it's very cool up there, and I enjoy it a lot. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Have you declared a major? I mean, what's your interest in terms of your studies?
I'm in sports business right now with a focus in sports studies. So
Cool.
I originally came in and wanted to be an athletic director. And then I talked to our athletic director, and he said, if you want to be a college athletic director, it's 4 years plus grad school. And then he did law school
Ooh,
along with that. And that
goodness.
basically just makes it easier to hire you because then you can
Yeah,
write up all your contracts.
yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
makes sense.
That's very good.
So, I mean, that's a lot of schooling. So I'm not sure if I necessarily want to do all that, but I definitely want to stay in sports after I'm done.
Yeah.
I think there's no shortage of opportunities out there in that industry, and you'll be fine. You'll find something that fits for you, and you'll do a great job.
Jacob, how is the team doing this season?
We're in a little bit of a rough patch. more so, we've been better in conference play. We're 7-5 in conference right now. We're sitting at fifth, so we're one game off from the 4 spot, which would give us a double bye in our conference tournament.
Okay.
So we've got 6 games left. We've got App State twice, who's in first place. We've got JMU twice, who's in third. And then we've got Coastal, and we've got Georgia State and Georgia Southern. So, and only 2 of those are at home. So we've got to get some road wins in order to secure our spot. But we started off a little bit slow. We've definitely done better in conference, playing better basketball. So we're starting to find our groove a little bit.
Yeah, you obviously played for us at Alder, and we had a lot of success while you were there. And you also played high level AAU. What's the biggest adjustment you've had to make basketball wise? Now that it's been almost 2 seasons that you've been there, from high school and AAU to the college game.
I think part of it is just the physicality of everybody. I mean, in high school, everybody's 18, 19, not super developed, but then you get to college and I'm playing against guys that are 24, 25,
grown ass men.
Yeah, so I mean, having to do that. The speed of things, I wouldn't say the speed was anything I had to like really adjust to. I mean, I played with and against super fast paced game like teams and games, so right. I mean, that wasn't too big of an adjustment. But then the amount of like small details that go into everything that doesn't necessarily you don't see in high school,
right.
Like certain cuts, certain footwork to use when you catch the ball,
right.
Just all those little things that add to your game. It took a while for me, but
yeah.
that's why you get there early in the summer. You get like 6 months to work on anything before you even have a practice.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You have so much more time to work on those finer details. And while we have our own set of details in high school, you guys take it to a much more granular level.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Jacob, we've been talking a little bit about the upcoming state tournament. Your brother, of course, still plays for Alter. He's a junior. I wanted to ask you, as we head into the high school state tournament, what is the biggest thing that you kind of miss about all that, Jacob?
I don't know. Probably just like being around the guys that I was with. I still talk with a lot of the guys from my team my senior year.
Great.
Talk with a lot of the guys, from my sophomore year. Obviously, there was a pretty good mix from my junior and senior year. A lot of those guys were the same, but probably just having those times where you come into the tournament, you get to everybody gets to see the draw for the first time, and you're like, okay, well, we do this, and we can play here, and we play this team. Like,
yeah,
there's kind of that excitement that builds around the tournament as a team. That's something I miss.
I hate to even bring this up because we've talked about it. We talked about it a little bit when I brought it up when we were talking to Larry Hangson and the COVID year that UD and what how much of a pain that was for them and all their fans, all of us fans. But that year, I mean, I think, and I'm reasonably sure, I know we would have won the regional semifinal game. I just know that because I saw that team play. I think we had more than a good chance to win the regional final game. So I'm going to go out on a limb here a little bit and say we would have went to state that year, right? What do you think about that season?
I agree with that. I know as far as everybody on the team, we were very confident, but we were very confident in that regional semi game.
Yes.
But then I think looking ahead at the Trotwood and Thurgood game,
yes,
we were very confident that whoever got through in that one, we were going to be able to beat them.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was how we did our preparation that week too. We didn't prepare for, I think it was Beechcroft who we were going to play.
Yeah.
We didn't prepare for them. We were preparing for Trotwood all week. We brought in a bunch of alumni guys. We play like 7-on-5 to simulate their press. Like we were doing that all week. We weren't like I guess it was.
Yeah,
It
we
was a
saw
mix of
Beechcroft
both, but
play. We were really confident of our chances against them. But
yeah,
having said that, they were a poor version style-wise of Trotwood and even Thurgood, and so
yeah,
that would have helped us, had we got the chance
hmm
to play that semifinal game. And I think that was the last. Was that the last season it was in Columbus? I don't.
yeah,
Yeah, that would have been the last
Yeah, I think the
state championship.
regional semifinal was going to be at UD.
Yes, that's
But
right. Yeah,
then, then we were going to
yeah.
head up
I
there.
still, I don't think about it every day, but I still, especially during basketball season and around tournament time, I think back to that year and what we could have possibly have done with you guys and that really good group of seniors that we had, and just so unfortunate. But I guess we're not the only ones that suffered through that, and it is what it is. But we made up for it the following 2 years.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Jacob, you mentioned that you still kind of talk with some of the fellas from that team. Do you guys ever talk about this? Do you ever kind of talk about the disappointment of the ending of that season?
I mean, we have previously. We haven't as much recently. I just remember like immediately after it happened, like I don't even know. I can't even describe like how I felt, but like
So empty.
it was so upsetting. Like especially because I didn't even really get to see those guys then before they left. Because I mean, obviously they all graduated and went to college, but we
Right.
were all quarantined and stuck in our
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw them at the banquet over the summer, and
Yeah.
and the banquet for us that year was we all just drove up to the front of the school, and Coach gave us out our awards.
We stood
So
out. We
insane.
stood out in the parking lot, and they drove up.
Yeah,
It's just
And we
insane.
handed them, or Coach handed them. I think we bought watches that year, which was kind of cool. I still wear mine
yeah,
on game night.
yeah. I still have mine.
Yeah, and that's what we did to celebrate that season. It just was. You think back on it, you just can't even believe it happened, right? I mean, it's the whole thing feels dreamy,
It
you know what I
does.
mean, or
It's just
nightmarish, I
crazy.
guess I should say. But it could have been worse. The Carroll girls
Ugh.
were warming up on the floor.
I feel so
in
bad
the
for
state
them.
semifinal game when they came out and shut them down.
Absolutely insane.
That's
Yeah,
a whole nother
that's
level of
crazy.
craziness.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. And that's getting pulled off the court would be
Right.
that would have been more upsetting for sure.
Just insane.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, I know you were talking a little bit about your studies and what maybe your plans are after college, but I wanted to ask you, do you have any thoughts of maybe playing at the professional level?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know obviously what level that would be, but my goal is to first play professional basketball. I want to try and play basketball as long as I can. I mean, it's given me so many opportunities, and when I'm done playing, I want to try to give back, but I want to try to play and milk out the game of basketball for me as long as I can.
So, without getting too deep into this, what do you think you have to do to make that happen from your development perspective?
I mean, I think because right now I'm playing, I kind of got switched over into more of a point guard role again.
Oh,
And I think for me, I think it's getting more comfortable in that position
Mhm.
and learning how to really control and run an offense at the college level, especially like with how we play, just our pace and our tempo, like just how fast everything is run. I feel like if I can get a hold on that, I feel like that helps me significantly.
Yeah, that's great.
But
you guys play like it's a shorter shot clock than what you really have. I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, I think our pace of play, I think we're top 30 in the country.
Right.
So, I mean, we get shots up pretty quick.
Do you think you're going to stay at that spot for the next couple of years after this season?
Yeah, I don't see myself leaving.
I mean, at point guard.
At point guard, I don't know if it'll be like a traditional point guard, like where come in and like set everything up and
Point
start the all the
forward.
plays.
Point
Yeah,
forward.
but I mean, I think it'll be me with the ball in my hands a decent amount.
Right.
Well, you have to be one of the biggest point guards in the NCAA, do you not?
Yeah, I'm definitely up there.
Well, you can see the court that way. We obviously used you that way when you were at Alder, even when you played for me as a freshman, and loved how you could see over top of defenses and help us beat zone presses and your outlet passing. Although that's not a point guard attribute, your outlet passing just in terms of, like I said before, being able to see over top and see the floor like you do is a major attribute, I think.
Thank you.
Well, that is one thing I was going to bring up too, Jacob, when, we got courtside view of your high school career. But one of the things that I thought you did so well was, as Mike mentioned, pass the basketball. Is that something you work on, or is that something you feel like was just kind of instinctive because you were so good at getting a break going or passing the ball down the court and just hitting one of your teammates in stride? Is that something that you work on, or that you've worked on throughout your young career, or is it just kind of an instinctive thing?
I would say it's mainly instinct, but then I know like um, in Coach Coulter's practices, we have a drill where we throw those kind of outlet passes. So I mean, it's something that I've worked on, but I mean, it's always been kind of an instinct thing. I
Right.
watched a guy who does that a lot is Kevin Love.
Right.
So I mean, he
Absolutely.
seeing that, I mean, I was like, well, if guys can leak out and we can get easy points. I mean, that makes our job that much easier. So,
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody do it at Alder, or maybe anywhere in my 20 plus years of being around the program, 25 years now. And it was a huge weapon for us, especially considering the guards that we had, both when you were a sophomore and then later as a junior and senior. And that's a part of the equation you got to make sure you have, right? You can't throw a long outlet pass to somebody if they're not there and ready to catch it and ready to go. And we had that, and it was a major weapon for us. We got a lot of easy baskets thanks to Jacob and his outlet passing.
Absolutely. Jacob, just a couple more and we'll let you go. We really appreciate you joining the show today. By the way, folks, we're talking to Jacob Connor. He is a graduate of Walter High School and is playing college basketball at Marshall. Jacob, wanted to, this is probably something you may not want to talk about too much, but your senior year, you made it to the state semifinal and took on Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. And Mike and I called that game. I thought that you guys started off the game very well. I think you were actually even leading at the end of the first quarter. Mike would probably remember the score a little bit better.
That's correct.
But I thought the Akron St. Vincent St. Mary kind of got you guys out of your game a little bit. But maybe give us a little bit of how you felt about the process of that game.
yeah, I mean, they definitely took us out of our game. I mean, full court pressure, full court deny on all of our guards. Um, and, made it really tough on all those guys to be able to bring the ball up and get us into our actual sets. And so, I had, I think Stratford is his name. I had him picking me up full court, so I was able to bring the ball up. But that kind of took us out of our normal offense because I hadn't been bringing the ball up that year.
Yeah.
And obviously their pressure got to us. A lot of our shots were short because of our legs. And then I think, we played them tough. And I think towards the end of the game, we just ran out of gas a little bit. And they had 8 or 9 guys that they could bring in and play the way they play. And I think the 5 of us played a majority of the game up until that point. So I think we just ran out of gas a little bit, but there's no reason that game shouldn't have been the state final and was the state semis.
Agreed.
That's just.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think most people in the crowd thought, after watching the other semifinal game, that the Alter Akron St. Vincent St. Mary game was a state championship game. And then they went to D1, and they've been D1 ever since. But they were really good.
They were good.
Sometimes you just got to go like, dude, these guys are good. They had that big guy. They had, what's his name, that went to Illinois.
Yeah, they were loaded.
Yes, and the little guard. And
they were very quick.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think they were a little bit surprised after the first quarter, but then, much like the last time we played them in a state championship game in 03 or yeah 03, we led them at halftime when they had LeBron, and then they came out and kind of asserted themselves a little bit more this time with when Jacob was there. They did it after the first quarter. They didn't wait, and so they just, like he said, they just kind of wore us down. And when you get down by 10 or 12 and it's late in the game, you can go two directions. That hole can get really deep really fast, or you can come back. And when you're trying to come back and do things differently than maybe you would otherwise have had to do, that in that case, the hole got deeper, and the margin, I think, was not necessarily indicative of how good of a game that was, but it was just mostly because there in the fourth quarter we were really exerting ourselves to try to come back, and we just kind of dug that hole a little bit deeper.
Definitely.
Yeah, I thought I don't think that they got our best game. I'll put it that way. But you got to give them credit because they were a very good team, and they got us out of our game plan, I thought, a little bit. But it was a great season.
You don't have to worry about them anymore. They're D1. So
yeah, it was fun to watch, but we certainly were hoping that the Knights would triumph. But that was a good test. I mean, it was a good test for you guys as players, and probably maybe gave you a feel for what the college game might be like as well. Do you feel that way, Jacob?
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially when you've got a team with that many guys that are going to play in college, and you've got a team that's coached by a guy that, has coached a lot of very good players, and knows how to coach. I mean, they're going to play the right way, and it's guys that are used to playing with college level intensity. So, I mean, you kind of got that a little bit early.
And in front of big crowds, because they book a lot of big games during the season, play a lot of big venues, and so that was not part of their concern at all either. So it just added up, and it is what it is. But I've always said the goal is getting to the state, and then resetting your goals and trying to win it from there. But so I think getting there and just being able to play that game at UD Arena and being part of the Final Four is a major accomplishment.
Definitely, it was very cool, and at that time, that was the most people I had ever played in front of. So that was, I mean, it was crazy I think we had 5,000 there.
At least.
I mean, it was very cool experience.
Well, Jacob, maybe a couple more before we let you go. But what's up next? What do you have on the docket coming up in the next couple of weeks?
This week we travel. We travel to App State and Coastal Carolina. So Coastal, we just played. We had just played them last week. So we've got a pretty good scout on them. App State, we haven't played yet this year, so we've got to come back and really prepare for them. Really, kind of lock in and focus up for this week. It's a big game. We play them twice, so I mean, realistically, we can try to gain 2 games on them before the end of the year. So we've got that this week. The following week, we've got James Madison and App State at home. So those are both very big games. And then I believe the week after is when we go to play the Georgia teams. We go to Georgia Southern and Georgia State, and right after that is when we start the conference tournament, and that's when you really have to come in ready to win. Nothing's going to be given to you. We learned that last year. So our conference is probably going to be a 1 bid league. So you gotta win.
Okay.
Yeah, bye, and then especially double bye would be really fortuitous, I think, and hopefully that's
fortuitous.
Something. You like that word? I don't even know what it means. It just sounded good. Hey, I got a question for you. Who are you picking tomorrow, and why?
Well, the Bengals fan in me wants to pick nobody.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. I think the Chiefs are going to win it, just because I feel like they've been there and they've been in that moment. But I don't know, because the 49ers just have so much talent on and around the ball.
Right.
So, I mean,
you never know who's going to show up with the 49ers. I mean, even halves. They
Yeah.
play terrible one half, and then they're absolutely fantastic the next. You just don't know.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
they haven't looked ready to play in a game yet, in my opinion.
Right. Well, it's going to be interesting. You know, I never thought about doing this. We should have had my son on. He's out there right now. He was with Joe last night at some kind of a function. Joe's not playing.
Yeah, that would have been good.
We could have got a man on the street report out there at the Super Bowl. But my lesson is don't bet against Pat Mahomes and Andy
No,
Reid. And I told you this the last couple of weeks, and I picked him against Buffalo, and I picked him at Baltimore, and I'm going to pick him again tomorrow just because of that.
I just noticed that you have a Kansas City hat on.
Noticed it?
I just noticed it.
Joe gave it to him when we were out there a couple of years ago, or picked it up out there when I was out there to see Joe play, and I'm not a huge cheat. If Joe wasn't there, I wouldn't.
Right.
But again, I'm not betting against Mahomes and Reid, man. I'm just not going to do it. So if I bet, it'll be on the Chiefs. But I like some of those prop bets. I'm definitely going to bet on the over/under in terms of how long the national anthem is, and I'm going to go with blue Gatorade because you can bet the color of the Gatorade.
You can bet on anything, can't you?
You can. It's awesome.
Well, Jacob, we really appreciate you joining us this morning. Good luck with everything that you have going on. And if you by chance make it back to a tournament game, if Alter continues to advance and you're out to see your brother play, maybe we'll get you on at halftime. Would certainly love to talk to you again.
Definitely. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, Jacob.
All right, Jacob. Good luck with the rest of the season, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right.
And, folks, that was Jacob Connor. He plays for the Marshall Thundering Herd, is a graduate of Alter High School, a fantastic basketball player, and even a better person, Mike.
Yeah, Jacob's great. There's not one negative thing can you think about when you think about Jacob. I got to coach him as a freshman when he played at Alter, and of course I was around him the following 3 years. Know the family really well, super family. Brady's following in his footsteps, and that's a big part of our team right now. And we're going to miss the Connors once they're all said and done and have left Alter basketball program.
Yeah, absolutely. Great family, great kid. Really appreciate him joining the show today, but an exciting time. So hopefully his season finishes strong. And
by the way, we were down there this summer, and I found out something I didn't know, which happens almost daily, if not hourly. The longest shot ever taken and made in an NCAA basketball game happened at Marshall.
Did not know that.
And it was by a Marshall player. And they have footprints painted on the floor from where the dude threw the ball at.
Assuming he made it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them were taken. He made his. And it's probably, if the floor is 94 feet, it's probably 92 feet in terms of the distance. And they got footprints painted on the floor with a little caption, documenting his name, the date, and all that stuff. And
did you see a shot by any chance?
No. It was a real long time ago. It's on YouTube. I saw it on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right at the end of the first half, and he basically takes an inbounds pass, 2 or 3 feet inbounds, turns and just heaves it, and it goes in.
Now, does he like
just
baseball pass it?
Yeah.
Okay, or does he?
No, it's a throw. Just
okay.
a catch, turn, and baseball throw or football throw, whatever you want to say, and it goes in. And today still is the longest ever made basketball shot in NCAA history.
That is too cool. I had no idea.
I didn't either. It's a kind of a trivial thing, especially since it didn't actually win the game, but still kind of a cool thing.
Absolutely. And Mike, just a few more things to go over today. We're almost out of time, but I did want to touch a little bit on Ohio State and Notre Dame. This is something that I kind of wanted to go over with you. These are things that you talk about in the off season, but I wanted to ask you, and I'll go over Notre Dame first, but I wanted to hear what you thought about Ohio State. And first of all, I wanted to see who you thought would be the most maybe sleeper players coming into the 2024 season, and not necessarily coming in, but who you think is going to perform on the gridiron and be kind of those sleeper players for the Buckeyes. I'll start with Notre Dame, but this is kind of an obvious one, but I think Riley Leonard is going to play a major role for Notre Dame. And that's rather obvious because he plays quarterback. But I think he's going to be one of those players that is going to surprise. I think he's better than people think. And I think even though I loved Sam Hartman, I thought he represented the school very well and seems to be a really good person. I think Riley Leonard is going to be a little bit better. I think he's going to be a better quarterback. Jeremiah Love, he is a running back for Notre Dame. I think he'll be maybe a redshirt sophomore. I'm not positive on that, but he is fantastic. I think he is really going to show the country what kind of a running back he is. He is so fast. And I think if you actually do go back to that Ohio State game, he performed really well in that game against the Buckeyes. And my third is Kingston Viliamu-Asa. He is a linebacker who is part of the 2024 class that just came into Notre Dame. I think he's going to be a lot like Manti Te'o was for Notre Dame. I think eventually he is going to take over the middle linebacker spot. Who knows? He may play some outside as well, but I think he is going to be a major player on that Notre Dame defense, certainly in years to come, but I think he's going to crack the lineup as a freshman.
Well, if you're comparing him to Mateo, whatever his name is.
Manti Te'o.
Manti Te'o, sorry. Watched a documentary on him, which was really interesting. But anyway, if you're even thinking about comparing this kid to him, he's going to be really good. And to come into a situation and start like that as a freshman is pretty impressive.
I don't know that he'll start the season as a starter, but I think he's eventually going to be impossible to keep off the field. So maybe give us a few thoughts on some players from Ohio State that you think are going to be difference makers.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to do that, especially since
so
they've got
talent.
Well, they have a lot of guys coming back, right? So they got literally got 9 starters now coming back on defense. But I think, and I don't know if sleeper's the right word, but I think in terms of value and expectations, the quarterback Will Howard is a big X factor. I think they have a lot of expectations of him, although Day has come out and said that it's going to be a wide open, competition for that position between him, Brown, maybe the 2 freshmen. But I think he is going to be a major X factor. We all like and know C.J. Hicks from Alter. Maybe he is somebody who there might not be tremendous expectations of going into the season, but I personally, I know you would agree, would love to see him step up
absolutely
and have a big part in any success that they have. And so a lot of like question marks, but like not really like tough questions. It's just like,
no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's they got so much coming back, and they did so well with the draft, with the portal, excuse me. And they do have a decent draft, not a total, not in terms of the total number, but in terms of the quality of their not draft but recruits. But I mean, I think C.J. Hicks and you mentioned Caleb Downs, the kid that's coming in from Alabama.
Yeah, fantastic.
He's supposedly obviously a really good defensive back. So they're loaded, but they're still not favored to win the national championship. Georgia still is the betting favorite, quietly down there, loading up. But it's the expectations are going to be crazy, and a couple of interesting games next season with the Pac-12 coming in, and it's going to be fun. But they are as talented as maybe any team in America.
Yeah, you mentioned there's no real big question marks. It's like deciding on whether you want to have cheese or no cheese on a hamburger.
Right. Swiss or American. Right?
Exactly. I mean, it's Ohio State is so loaded. I think Ryan Day has gotten a lot of criticism, certainly this past season. But as far as his duties off season, he's done a very good job. Although, Mike, when I put the shows together each week, it's amazing how many times I have to edit this thing because of all the changes that happen daily, basically hourly. But Bill O'Brien, was hired by Ohio State, and now
that?
it sounds like he's going to go to Boston College. Has that become official yet?
It is official.
Okay,
It is
I wasn't
official.
sure yesterday if it was or
Bill
not.
O'Brien is gone. He didn't even have a chance to move into his office in Columbus. Can't blame him. I've heard the offer was just too tremendous to turn down. A lot of job security, a lot of money. But they didn't waste any time, Ohio State, that is. They brought on Chip Kelly and signed him to a 3-year contract at Ohio State as an offensive coordinator, leaving
Leaves the
UCLA
head
as the
coach.
head coach. Now, there were quite a bit of rumblings about him getting fired after the season, but they beat USC the last game of the season and they won their bowl game. So all of a sudden the dust settled on that. But I'm sure he got reasonably close to the same amount of money he was making at UCLA as a head coach. Doesn't have to recruit necessarily like
I was
that.
just going to say
But
that.
here's the key. He coached Ryan Day in college.
I did not know
There
that.
you go. That's an interesting caveat.
That's a little connection.
Yeah, there is a great connection. They're very familiar with each other, very friendly, so that's an easy thing for Ryan Day to slide him on in there. It's very, very similar in terms of his experience as Bill O'Brien. Very, very similar. There's really not a whole lot of difference between having Bill O'Brien and this dude on board, and I'm personally okay with it. I think it's
Well, he's a
Bill
great
O'Brien,
offensive mind. I mean,
he
those
is.
teams out in Oregon when he coached there were absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. So I think it's awesome. I think it's a great hire. He can focus on offense, focus on scheme, strategy, new things, old things. I mean, all that stuff. And I think it's a great hire, and every bit as exciting as the Bill O'Brien hire was.
Well, you mentioned it, the recruiting piece. I think if from what I've read, it really, he didn't come out and directly say it, but I think Chip Kelly was tired of the recruiting and the NIL piece.
I think, obviously he went to the NFL already once to kind of get away from that. And then, but yeah, if you can make almost the same amount of money or very close and coach at a place like at Ohio State and not have a lot of the pains, that you have as a head coach, why not? And of course, he's going to a program that has a chance to win the national championship, and he could be part of that. And those guys are normally they pretty much are in the background. I mean, Jim Knowles, he does get some play with the press and exposure over there, but they're pretty much in the background.
And that might be what they want.
Yeah. I agree. I agree, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do with all those quarterbacks, because they are a very important part of the program. They have 3 really, really good quarterbacks that appears now, a fifth-year senior and 2 freshmen, and so I think he's going to be the kind of guy that knows how to tailor an offense around his talent. And he's probably, kind of like licking his chops to get over there and start figuring all that out.
Well, I thought Bill O'Brien was a pretty darn good hire, but I have to tell you, Mike, as an outsider looking in, I think they traded up, to be honest with you.
They might have.
I think Chip Kelly is an unbelievable offensive mind,
right.
You're right. With the talent that they already have there, he is probably just slobbering as he's heading to Columbus.
Yep.
Don't you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of a better place to go right now as far as
it's crazy
how much talent they've put together. Yep.
Well, Mike, we're about out of time, so I kind of want to head into probably my favorite part of the show. That is Yes, No, Maybe. And for those of you who are joining us maybe for the first time, this is when I make a statement, and Mike and I decide if we, yes, agree with it, no, do not agree with it, or possibly. And maybe that's the maybe part. So first statement today, Mike, and I will maybe add a little bit before I make this statement, but they lost last night, the Dayton Flyers. They unfortunately lost to VCU 49-47. Certainly had multiple chances to win that game, but that is their second loss in the A10 now. Richmond now is at top of the league, 8-1, but the Dayton Flyers fall to 19-4, and now they're 8-2 in the conference. So they have a little uphill battle in the A10. But the statement, Mike, the Dayton Flyers will reach the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament.
No, they're not good enough on the road against really good teams yet. I don't think. I mean, arguably they had some nice wins, especially earlier down in Charleston. But I think last night was a real test for them to go on the road against VCU, and they could only muster 47 points. And so I'm not saying I don't see a win or two from them, but Sweet 16 might be asking a lot.
All right, I'm mad at you. I'm not. No, I can't disagree with anything you just said, but I'm going to say maybe. I still think they're a very good team. I know there's been a lot of comparisons with the 2020 team with Obi Toppin. I don't think they're as good as that team, unfortunately, but I think they are a very good team. And I think maybe they could get to the Sweet 16, but I don't think they'll go much farther.
Well, they got to win the A-10 tournament. I think that's probably a two-bid conference this year, most likely the A-10 is. But they have to win the conference tournament to get into the.
You don't think they're going to get in at large? I think they'll have to advance pretty far in the tournament.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's still a question, right? They got to take care of business, and that's winning the league and getting that big. Getting a bye or two, whatever it is in the A-10, and winning the conference tournament, and that's not been something that they've been able to accomplish.
No. Yep. All right, Mike. Second statement: with the college football playoffs going to 12 teams, there will be a champion next season that has not won the national championship in the last 10 years. And I did include the list of those teams.
It's a short list. I mean, because we've got so many.
There's a lot of lot of repetition on that.
Yeah, there is. I'm gonna go with maybe. And off the top of my head, I don't know who that would be because the favorites right now are Ohio State and Georgia, and they've both won the national championship in the last 10 years. I'm going to go with maybe. There's probably somebody out there. Texas, I mean, they're a likely candidate. They're maybe third or fourth betting favorite right now to go with to win it all. So I'm going to go maybe.
All right. I'm going to go with yes because it's going to be Notre Dame. They're going to win next year. Notre Dame is going to be the 2024 national championships. You heard it here, folks.
If Ohio State can't do it, I hope Notre Dame does for your sake because I'll never hear the end of it. But anyway, but they could. I mean,
I think they've got the talent. It's quarterback.
I was thinking about this yesterday. I think for whatever reason, I think I saw it on your agenda. It's not going to be easy because once they get the top 12 teams together, you're going to have to win what, three games?
Three if you get the bye, I think.
Two if you get the bye. Three overall.
I don't know. I'd have to go through.
You're going to have to win
maybe
two or three games against a really, really, really good team.
And that's why I love this. I think the 12 team is fantastic.
It's a tournament, basically, a little bit more of a tournament than the 4-team tournament. But you got to win 3 games against top level competition.
No doubt.
That is a gauntlet, and
it'll be fun.
Can you be healthy enough when the time comes?
Good point.
Can you handle all the travel? Assuming you're not going to be hosting a first round, but it's a maybe. I like the fact that you get more teams in there, more involved, and everybody has.
It's going to be some cold games, Mike.
It might be. Yeah, there might very well be, and another good reason to be all really excited about next college football season.
Absolutely, Mike. This one. Kind of our older crowd here would probably know this a little bit better, although I would encourage if there are any young listeners to maybe go to YouTube and listen to this individual. But Kurt Gowdy had the best voice of all time for broadcasting.
I'm a Keith Jackson guy, and I loved Keith Jackson. I just remember hearing him and getting familiar with that Old Tangy, on the banks of the Old Tangy.
There are certain voices you hear where it's a big time game.
Kurt Gowdy was definitely unique. Wasn't he the Wide World of Sports guy, right? And a bunch of other stuff.
I always associate his voice with the Oakland Raiders for some reason.
I mean, for me to call him would you say the best
voice? And
best
I'm
voice.
not talking about anything off the field or Just his voice was just fantastic.
I mean, I guess if I had to pick one now that I think about it, it's probably Vin Scully. His voice is so unique.
I actually had that listed. I had Keith Jackson, Gus Johnson, Dick Enberg, Vin Scully, and Vern Lundquist.
That's probably the what do you call it? mountain or whatever.
The Mount Rushmore.
The Mount Rushmore of voices. Love all of those guys.
Vern Lundquist, just I always associate his with the SEC football and golf, the Masters.
So good. So good.
Vern Lundquist
loved
was
him, man. He was
fantastic.
Awesome. Yep.
All right, Mike, final one for today. This one I think you'll like. Seinfeld was the greatest sitcom ever on television.
Oh boy, man. I don't know how you measure that. Is it all the reruns and stuff, because it's still on all the time. I see it. It's one of my favorites. There's others that I like, maybe have liked more and watched more, but it was funny, man. It was really good, and so I'll go with it being up there at the top. I don't know about the greatest, but it's up there at the top. I liked it and still do watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I would probably initially just off the top of my head say yes, it was the best, but there were a lot of other great ones.
So many other ones.
Happy Days, Andy Griffith, Brady Bunch.
I mean,
Brady Bunch as a kid. I mean, you just absolutely loved
here's
it.
some of mine. All in the Family.
Wonder Years,
which never could be on TV today. Sanford and Son, which I thought was just absolutely hilarious, and still try to pick that up when I can. But so many, and so many of them are not on TV anymore. So it's sad. But MASH was probably the longest running.
Yeah,
right?
longest running.
Yeah, that was good. It was good, man. But Seinfeld was good, right up there at the top. A show about nothing.
Yeah,
basically
and
every week.
Fantastic.
It was great.
It's definitely 1A, but anyways, a lot of good ones. But Mike, I really enjoyed the show today.
Yeah,
it was great to talk to Jacob.
Yes,
and you and I got a lot coming up, so going to be exciting.
We do. It's great being retired, and the only thing you really have to worry about is
the podcast,
waking up the next day, getting out of bed. But yeah, and the podcast. I think about that all week.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. Also want to send a thank you out to Jacob Connor for joining the show today.
Sir, Jacob.
Folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy the sports, and we'll see you next time on Gamecast Radio Sports Talk.
So long, everybody.